Hi guys, so last week was the first time there's not been a high score kerfuffle video in over a year since we've moved to the bi-weekly format. For the last 2 weeks, we've been playing a game beginning with the letter A, which was Astro Blaster, a choice from Alex, who used to own one of these caps, which you can see on his channel. I'll put links to some of the players' social media profiles in the description below. Astro Blaster is a fixed shooter released by Sega in 1981 and is notable for its use of digitised speech. It's not the first game to feature that, but it is utilised really well here, providing some key messages. When your laser begins to overheat or your fuel is getting low, you get a message telling you that, which is handy whilst you're focused on shooting. I got a few sessions in playing this, and I did enjoy it, but it does get frustrating when you're pushing for score. The game features a number of secret bonuses, which you can achieve when you meet various criteria that aren't made aware to you. Examples of these include shooting enemies in a certain order, not missing, or when you dock with the mothership, not moving and hitting a certain orientation. This means at the end of the asteroid field, you try to line your ship up to hit the edge of the entry to get a 1500 point bonus. This game didn't get a home release, but I did find out that it got a homebrew development for the Atari 7800, so let's have a quick peek at that now. So yeah, here we've got Astro Blaster on the Atari 7800. So this is a homebrew development. It came out in 2014. You saw the name of the developer on the title screen there. And you know, this was just a kind of, I guess, a pet project to see if if the game could be ported to a home system. And actually, look at it. It's really good. I guess the thing is being on the Atari 7800. I think that came out in something like 1986, whereas the original game obviously came out in 1981. So in 1986, this was pretty out of would have been pretty out of date, even though the machine could handle it. Earlier releases. I mean, maybe it could have appeared on an 8-bit computer. But as a curiosity, I guess, given that we can play the games in MAME and imagining what could have been done back in the day, I think this is pretty nice. You see the screen ratio has been, it's not a full kind of horizontal 4:3. It's slightly wider than the vertical orientation that would have been in the arcade, but I think it's it's certainly done a good job to kind of, I guess, maximize screen area for a horizontal screen without completely taking away the feel of the original game. If this was had the full width of the screen, we see we've got one of the secret bonuses there. That's quite nice. So yeah, it has pretty much all of the features of the original arcade game. Some of the secret bonuses there. We've got the slowdown that we can do. The enemies are pretty accurate. So yeah, anyone who kind of wants to try something different on the Atari 7800, which I don't think had a huge number of games in its lifetime, maybe check it out. So yeah, now let's go have a look at the scores. So we had 21 people playing Astro Blaster, which is a decent turnout to kick off the season. Bi-weekly definitely gives people the time to join in, and we had returns from Alex and Charlie Farr. The scores gradually increased, up to Charlie Farr in 10th, who had a few token efforts during one of his streams. I'm sure he could have scored more if he wanted to. From Colin in 9th through to Juff in 4th, things were extremely close, with those places separated by less than 2,000 points. I've ended up in that bin in 7th. This corresponds to completing the 3rd round and then dying on the 4th, where the difficulty ramps up significantly. Our top 3 all did very well. Alex has ended up in 3rd place, and he used to own this cap, so no huge surprises there. Bob has done extremely well for 2nd, and we'll see in the progress graph how he's improved over the week. A great effort there. But this week's winner is someone who's already somewhat familiar with the game, and no surprises given his previous performances in the challenge, and that's Graham 10 Shearers. From early on, he was the one to beat, and he's taken a deserved victory here. We've also got the return of the graphs. My job is part data scientist, so I like bringing these in. First up, we have the distribution of the scores. The scores are on the log scale on the y-axis, and then split into bins, and the number of people in each bin are shown. We can see there's definitely a skew in the distribution to the right, but this is actually likely a compression of the scores as people hit the upper limits as the difficulty ramps up. Our top 3 are all in the same bin, showing how close it was. And our next 6 are all in the same bin too. I feel like this reflects how the early game is quite fun and accessible, but the way the difficulty ramps up makes it not the best game for a challenge like this. Next up, we have the difficulty curve. Now the scores again on the log scale are on the y-axis, and we have everyone who has taken part in order on the x-axis. Plateaus are where multiple people have achieved similar scores, presumably getting stuck at similar points. And steep sections are presumably where those sections of the game are easily overcome. We can see that the scores gradually increase up to a plateau at around 25,000 points. This is a clear wall where the difficulty ramps up significantly. Our top 3 got beyond that, but not much further, so this is likely from optimised scoring rather than getting significantly further in the game. Finally, we have the increases in scores over the week as people put in multiple submissions. Early on, Colin and I traded the top spot before it was Graham who moved things on significantly. Alex then led for a day or so before Graham retook the lead, never to be caught again and ultimately taking the win. Our most improved player this week definitely goes to Bob. You can see multiple improvements from a lowly score early on, slowly overtaking various people before jumping up to second place by the end. That's a great effort, and I'm guessing he was enjoying the game this week. With this being our first week, our leaderboard is obviously the same as this week's result, so let's move on to the next game. So our next game will be one beginning with the letter B, and I've had 20 games sent to me. There was quite a mix, which is great. Black Tiger and Bomb Jack both got 2 votes each, but our most popular game was Bubble Bobble with 3. There's still another 13 singletons, so it's all to play for. And this week's winner Graham gets his game of Bionic Commando trebled in probability. Juff recently shared his love for this game, and you can see a link to his channel in the description. So let's set things going and see what we get. Okay, there it goes, slowing down. Okay, okay, it is Bionic Commando. So there you go. Well done to Graham, and that's that win has paid off there in the trebling of the probability, making it more likely to come up. Sorry to Juff, because that love for the game was his lack of love for Bionic Commando. Yeah, I think this is like it's hard to describe. It's an action game. You know, you've got an extendable arm, but it's from Capcom, and so it's got that classic Capcom difficulty. So yeah, I think an interesting game. We'll see how it goes this week. So yeah, I'll go make a video and be back in a sec. So apologies to Juff, but our next game is Bionic Commando, released by Capcom in 1987. It's a mix between a platformer and a run and gun, where you have a gun weapon, but also a grappling hook, allowing you to jump up to higher platforms. I've not spent any time with this before, and it certainly seems to split opinions. Juff obviously dislikes it, but Graham is clearly a fan. I'll reserve judgment until I've played it a bit over the next couple of weeks. The good thing about this one is that the game is on the Mister, so I'll be using that. We'll be using the Euro ROM and default settings as usual. For the next game, please send me your suggestions beginning with the letter C. We've already had Carnival, Choplifter, Columns, and Commando. There are a lot of good games beginning with the letter C, but unless you're choosing Columns too, then you're making a bad choice. Don't forget later games such as those on the Sega Naomi, so Crazy Taxi could be an option next time. So I hope you'll enjoy playing some Bionic Commando, and I'll be back in a couple of weeks with the scores. See you then.